Hello everyone, welcome to the T Sports Network. I'm your host Rob. if competitive luging can be a sport, then this can be a sport. Hello, I'm joined by Dan, Tom, and Jeffrey for the Age of Sigmar World Team Championships 2023 list deep dive. Thanks everyone for joining us live. I know there's people watching us Twitch on YouTube. Do say hi and in the chat. It's great to see everyone. We're going to be going through all the lists, but first I'm just going to catch up with everyone in the chat. So big shout out. Dan is going to be my co-commentator for the World Team Championships. Owen is also going to be hanging out with us during the singles. Dan, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fantastic. The only thing that is wrong in my life right now is that AOS Worlds is still a month away. That's the only thing that's going wrong in my life. Everything else is great.
Actually terrifying for me, but I'm glad you're comfortable.
I got this. You be the terror, I'll be the confidence, and somewhere in that creamy middle is perfection.
Love it. All right, super excited. Hello in the chat. It's great to see everyone. Right, so we're joined by the tournament organizer and head judge, Tom. Hello, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. Yeah, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Most of the work has been done the past 2 weeks, so I can chill a little bit now. So I'm good.
All right, perfect. I can't wait to hear about the spicy, did anyone get their lists in on time chat with you, which is fun. What T-shirt you rocking?
Well, of course, Noah's. I got Noah's shirt.
Five friends,
is
not
it reversed
5-0.
for you as well?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
All right, perfect. Thanks for being on. And
the only reason I'm hosting Worlds is so he can sign it.
Good. All right, that's a good reason.
Yeah.
And then Jeffrey, who is the team captain of the host nation, the Netherlands, where the Dutch live, but also Tom, in many ways, like one of your compatriots in helping run events, right? So hello,
Yeah.
Jeffrey. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I can't wait till Worlds.
You can't
Almost there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been wearing many hats this last year because I'm part of Alliance Open, which won the bid, so we are hosting Worlds, but also I'm playing, so I'm wearing a different hat every day.
Let's start there. Has that been difficult to do? Obviously, just for everyone at home and for people who have never experienced Worlds, it's Tom will be able to talk about it a little bit more, but it's organised by the community. There's a voting system. There's a council. There's a bunch of interesting stuff. Has that been challenging for you, Jeffrey?
No, not challenging. It's been fun actually, and I like to organize, and me and Tom are always on the same level, so I don't have to do it all alone. But this time it's just been a bit weird because I also don't want to take advantage over the other teams as a player.
Yeah.
Or as a captain, so I'm always struggling with the organizing Worlds on where I need to be involved and where I need to step back.
Yeah, that's got to be really challenging. Tom, how do you manage that?
Yeah, so I had to keep him out of the loop for some things. Like normally, like Jeffrey said, we're basically on the same page about like 99.9% of the things we do. And normally the lists come in, we would, for a normal event, we would check the lists together. We do everything, we split all the work 50-50. But now, because I didn't want to create a situation where one captain would get all the lists during submission and have access to the lists before the deadline had passed. Because, well, it's never a good thing to have speculations or maybe create an image of someone, getting more information than others. So I kept him out of the loop, and only after all the referees checked the lists, I could involve him to prepare for this stream. So I think that's been a little bit weird for him as well, because
Yes.
I had the most of the work the past 2 weeks, and he couldn't help me, which is normally where we
Work together,
team up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, and I'm usually also the stats guy. I love to prepare the stats and show them to people, and
oh no,
I'm happy you did most of the work this time.
Hey, you're the person who's like, what I love is to crunch the numbers, and it's like the one thing you can't have is the numbers. You're just sitting
exactly.
there being like,
Well, just for everyone at home to know, like I did read through all of the lists. I did a bunch of number crunching myself, but a special shout out to Ziggy, Tom, and a bunch of other people for helping me like collate that information together. It was super helpful. And then obviously we've already put a video out if you want to go check it out on our YouTube, where I kind of like look through a little bit of an overview and hopefully a bit of analysis as well. I was actually quite upset because it took so long to read through everything, and like I didn't really get much time for the analysis part. Like I still think that there's hours and hours of analysis, and me and Dan are going to talk about that more on some other shows where we're going to look through some lists, talk about how they work and what they're going to do and how they're going to play, and hopefully on the road to Worlds, like everyone will be able to like join us in that journey because it is fairly complicated. But hopefully we'll touch on some of those points over the course of today. Right, Tom, could you intro Worlds for us a little bit? Because some people don't know what it's about. So for people who are just tuning in or watch this video for the first time, I know there's a bunch of the players who want to know about the lists. We will get to that as soon as possible. But just for new people, AOS Worlds, what is it? How is it organised? As quick as you can. Give me some.
As quick as I can.
Okay.
So AOS Worlds is an 8-person team format. In a format where several nations or multiple nations, this year it will be 24 nations, can send 8 players, 1 captain and 7 other players, to compete against each other to try to win the title of world's best nation, world's best team. And there's a council that's involved every year that will take up all the organizing together with the person that won the bid, because every year a nation can do a bid to see if they can organize it. And last year we did the bid, and we managed to score it. So that's why we're all going to Amsterdam this year. And for example, next year it could be in Spain or in Finland, or whoever tries to do a bid. But it's 8-person teams, and during every round you play this little mini game to match up your players against the opposing players and try to get as many points as possible for 3 days, 2 games per day. And at the end we'll see who can call himself the winner.
Yeah, the pairings process. I remember making a pairings video last year. It took me 2 days. Literally, no one cared. Just no one cares. Like,
live and learn.
Apart from those like 2 people on each team. So effectively, you take a country with several million people, and you find all the Warhammer players. Then out of all the Warhammer players, they get maybe a pairings person, maybe 2. I don't know, Jeffrey. Who's the pairings person in your team? Is it you?
Yeah, it's me, our coach, and we can assign an extra player. But we are lucky to have a coach. But I mean, it's in our home country, right? So for us, it's easy this year. So I can imagine for other countries traveling far that it's hard to get people over that's not really playing. Maybe they love singles and they come along and do the coaching as an extra, but
it's a different game pairing.
It's a lot of money, but to be honest, I did learn something this year because I wasn't expecting us to win the bid at all. So apparently there is a lot of money involved in Warhammer because we have 192 people coming over. So yeah.
Wow.
That's why I think America specializes in it so well, because they're fantastic at crippling debt. So really, really quite good at Warhammer for that reason.
Yeah, I agree. All right, okay. So Tom, thanks for the analysis. So the pairings process, again, if you're not experienced with that, we'll explain that in another video, and we'll go through that, and hopefully have a couple of guests on in the future to talk about that in more detail. But that also is going to really warp how, because we'll start talking about the lists in a moment. It's going to really warp how you look at the event. Specifically because you're going to see some armies which aren't going to make loads of sense in some cases, but probably something that was... We should talk about the current champions. Congratulations, Team England last year, current champions, reigning champions. Yes, well done.
And team to beat as well, like the pressure on them, because every other team in the competition would leave happy if they lost every one of their 5 other rounds but beat Team England. They would be stoked to be able to say that they took down the 3-time champions, which is that's awesome that you've got kind of the good guys or bad guys depending on where you live in the world. However, for Team England, that is a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
that's
Tom, how are you going to cope with just one of the maybe not as maybe deep benches teams just beating England round 2 and just going home, being like, this has been lovely, thank you.
They put it all into that, yeah.
do you have a backup team? What's the situation? Because that's got to be challenging. Because a spare player at an event is normally a person. A spare 8 people. Because last year we had a UN team, right? You got a spare team.
Yeah, so officially up until like a week before the event, the UN team could theoretically still join. Of course, because it's in the Netherlands, we could probably get like I could like round up 8 people to come play if a team decided to drop out like a week before the event. But as Jeffrey mentioned, joining the event this year in Amsterdam is very expensive for the teams. Not because we're all trying to become millionaires, because we won't, but mostly because we're an expensive country, and we wanted to include lunch in the ticket, etc., etc. So the ticket prices are pretty high. So I can't really see a team bailing out before or during the event because they simply just pay too much money to get there. But in theory, if a team would drop out, if something happens, or like the entire team got COVID or something, I don't know, we could probably round up 8 people. It would probably, though,
Screw
screw the event.
It would just be me and Dan. We're on table 2. We're actually on.
Yeah.
We're on.
Now we cut to table 2, and you just hear like this. Like,
You become like the chess master that plays 8 games at once.
Yeah, except it'll be that one where it's like, and here he is playing 8 games simultaneously. He has lost every single one of them. This was a truly shocking idea.
He is really shit.
Yeah, but like, imagine like a team dropping, and then I'd have to grab like 8 random players off the street, and okay, well, here's England. You're playing these guys.
To be fair though, 8 random people or Team Ireland, who wins? That's right. Let's go Team Ireland. Come on. Day 1. Right, okay. Right, so let's start talking about so the teams. If you don't know, 24 teams, 8 players, like Tom said, all in Amsterdam. You can watch it all live. Let's kind of start talking about the meta. Tom, this is the last bit where I'm going to ask you before we get into the actual information. All the lists coming in. There's just remind us of the stipulations on lists. Can't duplicate war scrolls. What's the situation?
Yeah, so you cannot duplicate war scrolls. Well, you can within one list, but you cannot duplicate war scrolls among players, and you can also not duplicate universal enhancements, except for the aspects and triumphs, because obviously there are not enough of either of them to get 8 players a separate one or a unique one. So the aspects are limited to 3 per team, and the triumphs are not limited at all, and neither are the battalions. But for example, Arcane Tome, which was an auto take 4 weeks ago, maybe not so much now, but that's something that's limited to once per team. There's only 1 Bellicor per team, or none Bellicor per team in some cases. The only thing is you can still summon them in. So let's say I allied a unit of Ungors, and my teammate is playing a Beast of Chaos army with the trumpet on his shaman or something that can summon in a unit of Ungors, and he doesn't have it normally in his list. He can still summon them in. So the limitation is not on something you might summon in later in the game or add to your army later in the game.
Okay, good. Okay, that's for people at home. That's super important. All right, so let's just take a moment to look at. Let me make sure I get this right. There we go. We got the meta representation. So if anyone didn't tune into video live, this is what it looks like. The big breakdown.
It's incredible to me. Looking at it, there are so many that I'm like, fantastic, this is what I was expecting. And there are some there that I'm kind of shocked. And I think that's the joy of the concept of a team's tournament, where you're playing into and matching and pairing, because there are some there with low representation that I absolutely would have expected to see more of.
Yeah, so just for people who are watching, at the end of the show, Tom and Jeffrey are going to let everyone know where you can publicly go and access all the lists and go check them out. So that's at the end of the show, or just check socials later. So if you're waiting around for that, then just wait till the end of the show and go do something else. But right now, pretty exciting. So last year, pretty crazy. Seraphon on every table, Nurgle on every table. Only 1 Seraphon army versus last year. But it's also played by the most successful current Age of Sigmar player in the world. So it's a bit of a flex, my personal opinion, Gavin, for Team America. How do you feel about there being only 1 Seraphon? Do you think this is... Do you think they don't have the juice anymore? How do you feel about this, Jeffrey?
I've been seeing them drop off for a while now, slowly but surely. They got how many nerfs did they have now? Like 4 in a row, I think, or 3.
Mm.
And they just kept losing a unit, and yeah. I've seen the meta shift pretty fast the last couple of months as well, with all the new books dropping, so I'm not surprised at all. It is funny though, because if you look at the chart, I think last year it was like totally the opposite.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I called Jeffrey today and I said, if you look at the most played factions last year and the least played factions last year, there was one KO. I believe there was one Slaanesh. There was maybe one Sylvaneth and no Gitz last year.
Yeah.
And the most played, I think, were Seraphon, Stormcast, Nurgle. If you look at the chart now, it's literally the exact opposite.
Iron Jaws were also played a lot
Yeah,
last
Iron
year.
Jaws.
Yeah,
I
so
also
wasn't there one Tzeentch last year?
Only one. Could
I
be.
think a
Ryan
couple
had
more,
Tzeentch
but
from Malta.
Yeah.
And we had
Yeah.
the Dutch team at Tzeentch as well. So
There was
I
only
think there were-
one. There was only one KO. I'm almost certain last year.
Yes, in the UN
yeah,
team.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think something that's really interesting looking at it as well is like, so Nurgle being so represented last year, they're still not doing terribly in the meta. And particularly things like Droning Guard are amazing counters. But I wonder if a lot of teams haven't taken them. There's only, for those listening, there's only 3 Maggotkin of Nurgle, only 1 Droning Guard coming along. I wonder if because they were so popular, that's why teams are leaning away from them, because they're like, a lot of people have experience playing against them, beating them, so they're not bringing those teams, those allegiances.
I think one of the really interesting things for people watching at home as we get into talking about this information is to remember that the teams format is very different to like a singles format. So your singles mind sometimes won't work as well as your singles head won't work as good as your team's head. In a lot of different ways. Okay, so Gloomspite Gitz, most popular faction, 21 of them. We'll deep dive that in a minute. Lumineth and KO at 19. Disciples of Tzeentch, 20. They're up there. And then we've got Beasts of Chaos, Hedonites, Slaves of Darkness, Blades of Khorne. Then you've got Fyreslayers, Sylvaneth, Daughters of Khaine. The most successful singles army at the moment, 63% win rate, is the Kharadron Overlords. And then just behind them, somehow, miraculously, is Disciples of Tzeentch. At 55%. So it would seem that the 2 most successful armies are up there. The Gitz lists is quite interesting because I'm not sure if the singles Gitz win rate specifically is not as successful because there's just a bunch of kids with spider riders running around.
I think they are pulled down by their popularity, absolutely. And
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
it's logical. 24 teams, 21 of them are taking Gitz. That makes complete sense to me because for most people, that is a list that can just go out there and do the work into most matchups.
Yeah. So, Tom, what do you think about the Gitz list? So, all the Gitz lists, just for everyone at home, are the same. They're not. They're slightly different.
Yeah, it
Gitz
was
lists
whatever
is-
was still left on the shelf after week 1. That's what they put in their list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gitz lists are effectively where Daughters of Khaine lists were like an edition ago, where people were like, "Oh, I've done this crazy new thing," and all they'd changed is like 100-point unit in the back end, and it's like, but it's still the same list. They're like, "No, I changed this crazy thing." That's the Gitz lists. I love them.
There's actually some interesting stuff. So your typical cookie cutter list, it looks like from those 21 lists, is like it's two lots of 32 squig herd. And then some buff pieces, basically rocking around. What do you think of these, like Tom yourself, like as an army?
Well, I got a hot take. I detest the Gloomspite Gitz models. I really don't like them.
What the actual
Yeah,
fuck?
I know. I'm sorry. They're too cartoony for me. So then when the book came out, I was reading the rules. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna see them a lot. But yeah, the list, it's a lot of wounds. They can revive easily. Their spells are great. They are fast. Of course, they don't have the best saves, but because of their enormous amount of wounds and the fact that they can recycle the units, it doesn't really matter. So I think, the cookie cutter list is probably, we're seeing right now with the 2 units of Squig Herd, maybe 10 Point Grots, and you have team people that play the Sloggoth and the people that don't play the Sloggoth, and that's one of the big changes. And some people use the Gobblepalooza and some people don't. But I think the core of the list is mostly the same. But yeah, it's solid, so you can't really blame them. It's a solid list, solid army, and it's quite hard to beat unless you're Lumineth or maybe KO.
Okay, so that's what I was going to
oh,
ask. What do you think, Jeffrey? What do you like? I mean, I don't want to give away. Like, it's tough for you, Jeffrey, being on the show because giving away your pairing strategy is like a problem.
Or you could
or you could lie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, what do you think
about Gitz or?
Yeah, about Gitz and also pairing into Gitz.
Yeah. So I think the problem, because I do see them as a problem army at the moment, and I know we are not talking about balance right now, but still, they are pretty much up there. I think their problem is they have a very solid game plan, and if you look at compare them to the Archeon Ravages list, what they both have in common is they trade very effectively.
Yes.
In melee, and that's their problem. They have a lot of wounds. They do the mortal wounds. So for people at home who don't know, when the squig herds die, they have a very low bravery, and at the end of the turn you have to roll for it's called a battle shock roll. So the more units, the more models that died, the more models will run extra when you roll for your battle shock. And they have a rule: when the models run or flee, they can do a mortal wound within 9 inch, which is huge because you can target stuff like Galatian champions who usually cannot be targeted by shooting or anything. And yeah, they just trade very well. And then after that, you have the roll from your Bad Moon Loon Shrine, and they come back. So
yes, well, I was about to say, Dan, for us, this is easily going to be one of the most fun elements of Worlds, because the ability to bring a unit back from the shrine happens at the end of the Gitz player's turn, but there's a command trait called the Clammy Hand. Yeah, which we're gonna have a lot of fun with that. Ooh, it looks like his hand's so clammy. Ooh.
It's so moist. It's so uncomfortably moist. Which is let's be honest. Very rarely in life are things described as clammy good, other than clams.
Clammy good is weird.
Nobody was like, oh, it was so clammy, it's the best. It's like that's not a descriptor that you want. But if you're a Git, that is a hand that you are very excited to experience over and over and over again.
It's a good hand. It's a good hand.
It's a great hand.
It's a great hand.
It's so good. We do it twice.
So, Tom, I was wondering, if it were you, and because I know you're super switched on with this, if it was you, would you be trying to? So this is the thing we can talk about in teams very quickly. What some teams will be trying to do is they'll be trying to pair in something as offensive as Gitz, taken 21 times out of 24 must be good. Are you just going to straight up be like, do you know what? I'll bus a guy, which means you basically just lose on purpose to get a really strong army out of the matchup and out of the list. Would that be your process, do you think? Or
of course, you'd look at a team-by-team basis. If I was playing against Team A, and we could throw someone under the bus, as it's called. So sacrifice one of the guys' matchup to maybe gain a better matchup elsewhere. That's definitely a valid strategy. I think the only problem is with the meta currently that there are so many armies that are very, very dangerous that it is a tricky game to play. You could try to throw someone under the bus, but they still have Khorne, KO, and Slaanesh, for example, in their hand, ready to come down on the table to pair. And neither of those will be easy matchups as well. So I think obviously the teams are going to try to get Lumineth into Gitz, or they will probably just think, you know what, we can try to do a mirror, or we can just take a 20-0 loss maybe, or maybe someone can play for the 14-6 and get a great matchup elsewhere. Because for people who don't know, when you play a game of Age of Sigmar, you can get victory points, and at the end of the game, the victory points will result in a 20-0 score. So you could, if you draw, it's a 10-10. If you whack someone off the table, you win with 20 against 0, and if you get whacked off the table, you get 0 against their 20. And teams is a point-first format, so that means every player is playing for points only. So that's in pairing, you can play that out against each other.
I think shooting go particularly well into Gitz because you can stay out of the 9-inch bubble that I just told everyone about.
Yeah.
And
trigger
then
bravery rolls.
yeah, you can trigger it everywhere, and they can go down pretty fast. So stuff like Slaanesh, Lumineth, Daughters of Khaine with the Morathi and the Bow Snakes. Because also Morathi can only take 3 wounds. I think those are armies you would like to pair into Gitz. But the problem is if you want to counter a list like this, you really need to have 2 armies to counter it basically, because when they go down as a defender, you put down 2 attackers and they get to choose. So.
Yeah, exactly. So we should talk about that. The pairings process is probably so important, is to mention there's a defender. So if let's say me and Tom were playing, our 2 teams, we were doing the pairings, I put down a defender, Tom will put down 2 attackers, and then me as the defender would choose to play one of those 2 attackers. So you need 2 armies that potentially are going to be able to beat Gitz, or there's like a trick one. Like there's so much like drama in the pairings process, so much like Houdini stuff. No one's ever like pulled a card out of like a sleeve yet, which I'm excited for.
That would be like you activated my trap card kind of moment.
Yeah.
That would be lovely.
Obviously, recently we've seen comedy large cards.
God almighty.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a rule on that, Tom. Is there a rule on the size of the cards?
We provide the cards from
okay.
well, not we, but the council does. So, well, last year when you were covering AOTC, we had the Team Turbo, your favorite team. I believe some matchups they just shuffled and they were like, well, let's do this one.
Yeah. One of the teams events I played in Australia, we had two teams competing from my club, and when we came against each other, we just like random paired, and it went excellently for my opponents. Like they truly got the perfect pairings into us, and we were like, we shouldn't have done this. So they ended up coming first, we came second, but we trusted the cards, and the cards betrayed us. Just super quickly into the pairings thing. Like I know we're talking about pairings into wins against like Gloomspite and in particular Lumineth because they're so big. It looks like just about every nation has absolutely taken someone whose job it is to dive on the grenade. Like there's at least 1 or 2 people in each team with a list that I think it's like if they come up against Gloomspite, they're not going to throw them out there to win. They're throwing them out there to lose the best. And take away,
which is a legitimate strategy.
And I honestly find those players the most interesting to watch because they're going in being like, I lose this game, but I want to lose it by the smallest margin. And those games for me are so exciting to see because they're not trying to like smash the Gitz off the board. They're just trying to like, it's that typical rearguard of be like, we slow them down to buy the other's time.
It's the best games, right? 5-turn games. Yeah.
For example, you spoke about Nurgle earlier. They are perfect as a defender in those types of situations.
Which team, sorry?
It's
Which
pretty
faction?
Nurgle. Because it's pretty hard to 20-0 a Nurgle. Like the standard Nurgle is pretty tough. It's hard to 20-0 them. And Nurgle is a perfect faction normally to put down as a defender because it doesn't have a lot of insanely bad matchups, and it still has a lot of play. But we won't see a lot of Nurgle this year, unfortunately. But I think slaves could maybe have that role a little bit as well.
But don't you? Oh,
the popularity. Oh no, I was just going to say. I think the popularity of Fyreslayers, with 10 of them coming along, is going to be. I think, as much as I hate to say that my beefy, hairy boys are the ones that are going to be diving on the grenades, I think that's going to be their job in a lot of them.
But don't you pose a problem for many armies, though. Don't underestimate that. They're a good attacker as well.
They're a good attacker.
But for instance, we would talk about the pairings process in depth, I'm sure, at another point. But when we were saying like the defender places 1 down and then the opponent places 2 two to match it, and the other team decides which one of those will face it. Say you're coming up against the Gitz, you throw out your grenade dive on group, or you throw out a really strong competitor against them, say you're Lumineth. You're forcing your opponent to decide between blunting their attack with one of their high damage armies for potentially a loss, or giving them a win that they know they're going to get against something that takes it. It's a very interesting thing, and it looks like a lot of teams have thought about offering that option to their opponents, being like, do you want to win, but do you want to win for nothing, or do you want to lose potentially and have a blunted attack? It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It is.
Don't you guys think that those armies are disappearing a little bit and that they get more and more counters? I think that's the reason that Nurgle is not being played that much, actually, because sure, they can tank damage, but for example, with the Nurgle, they don't do battle tactics particularly well, so it's hard for them to keep up with the pace of the game. And I personally think that those types of armies are disappearing a bit because there's way more damage in the game if you compare it to last year. Lots of mortal wounds, and it feels a bit harder to do this.
Yeah, so
and it's more rock paper scissors meta. Oh, sorry.
One at a time.
I think the rock paper scissors meta we're seeing right now, which is I think more prevalent than for perhaps last year at Worlds, for example, means that jack of all trade armies, they don't do that well because they don't counter anything. So I think you're right. I think they are disappearing a little bit, and books are getting thinner in the way that you have less army rules with each and every book, so it's harder to be good at multiple things or be more solid than before. You don't see a lot of Nurgle style books anyway. Like Slaves is pretty tanky, but they lack a lot of other abilities or
even the Slaves to Darkness list that we see, there's two versions, right? There is a more survivable Varangard Nurgle Knight list, but then the Varangard are there marked Khorne. It's not like they're like we're the Varangard of Nurgle. They're like, we are Khorne, let's wreck. And then even the other versions, the Ravagers versions, have got a bunch of Splintered Fang. So I agree with you. It's quite interesting as we kind of move on to the next faction. As I was going to say, if we talk about Tzeentch, so I don't know if anyone has a favorite Gitz list. We're going to do our favorite Gitz, our favorite lists towards the end. But we'll move on to Tzeentch really quick. There's a bunch of really great Gitz players as well. I think probably each one of those really major representation factions needs its own video, so we will do that at some point. That's not for today, otherwise it'll be 12 hours long. And there's someone at home being like, no problem, Rob, sign me in.
Let's do this. I got nowhere to be.
That's not us. That's not us. So we're talking about armies that probably lose really well, or it was described to me as squash points really well. And that would be Disciples of Tzeentch, our second most popular faction. It's quite interesting. Disciples of Tzeentch, there are 20 different Disciples of Tzeentch armies here, so the second most successful. They have a really good singles win rate, which is quite interesting. But you would expect, I guess, maybe to see a bunch of maybe Host Duplicitus. But instead, a lot of it is Guild of Summoners, so which is a sub-faction for doing lots of rallying. Tom, you got some thoughts on this?
I think Tzeentch is an army that has a very high 4-1 percentage. Not a lot of 5-0, but it's really solid. You see a lot of Guild of Summoners, especially in the UK events. I was surprised that the amount of Guild of Summoners was actually this high at Worlds. But it's a solid army. It's hard, like you said, it's a good losing army. Like it's hard to 20-0 that army. And it can still blow a lot of armies out of the water. I think that's one of the reasons a lot of armies maybe brought Khorne, or a lot of teams maybe brought Khorne to because they were probably expecting to see a lot of Tzeentch and a lot of Lumineth. But yeah, I like the army. It has a lot of play. It has a great late game. I would probably always bring that at this point in time if I was running a team.
Like my personal opinion, as you know, I'm a big Tzeentch fan, and this is wild to me. That it's the second most popular faction, wild. But I think it's just because it can guarantee some results so effectively in the right matchups, and then probably if it's gonna lose, it doesn't. I don't know if it loses super hard into some matchups.
I was about to say most like Tzeentch at most events, even if they're going down, they go down slowly. Like they lose in turn 4 or turn 5. They don't get smashed off the board turn 1, 2, or 3. And I think that's why almost every team has brought them, because they lose well and they can eke out wins that they weren't supposed to as well.
Yeah.
The one challenge I think that Tzeentch is going to play is that even watching incredibly talented Tzeentch players, it is a slow, tech-heavy army. And with a tight time frame, people that like obviously these players will have practiced with their lists, but a tight time frame pushes you to be faster with your play. And we might see either timeouts or people missing things in trying to keep up the pace. They do have big long game rounds.
However, the Tzeentch army's got significantly better. I mean, obviously it got a new book since last year, but also the introduction of the humble cockatrice, which is in a lot of those lists, which if you don't know reduces the attacks in. So now you're seeing a bunch of Tzeentch armies which also are even harder to hit and do damage to. So they're going to take even more difficult to get rid of. So that's kind of a fun little inclusion in a bunch of different armies. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think the cockatrices are very, very good. If you face a melee army, you're gonna have a tough time grinding through them. And I think Dan had a good point there, because we were just talking about that it's hard to negate hard wins, but Tzeentch does it particularly well, because the fun side about Tzeentch is if you pair them well, you can win big. If they go down, just like Dan said, they don't lose that hard because of the summoning. They just,
Yeah, the late game is good.
Summoning
They
is
will get
good.
their 28 points.
Yeah.
If they're very capable of getting their 28 points. The only thing that hurts them at Worlds is the fight between them and Lumineth for the spell portal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But a lot of lists don't have the spell portal, and I still think they are very, very good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so Guild of Summoners being the most popular one is quite interesting, because that's interestingly, because I think if you were, although my graphic is the wrong way around and it says hosted Plicitus, and it's actually Guild of Summoners 13, the other way around. But that's kind of interesting because that's actually less of a tanky army. That's more of that you summon a Lord of Change on 9 points as opposed to 30 or whatever it normally is. And then you keep generating them as fast as possible. Even you see the inclusion of the Demon Spark command trait, so you get an additional 3 at the start, so that you're like ramping that up really quick. So it's like a kind of like when we talk about Slaanesh later, their tempo is that they want to do a lot in the first turn or two, get all of their buffs available, then move into summoning. And I guess the Tzeentch lists that we're seeing are doing the same thing. And only there's a couple of hosted Plicitus lists that are like, I'm going to pin you in turn 1. And then you just can't move for the rest of the game. Right? That's your thing.
That's they're basically doing what Nurgle did last season, but I hate to say it for the Nurgle players, but better.
Yes.
It's a sad truth.
Yeah.
But honestly, they are also part of the auto grand strat armies. You know, the grand strategy is it's so easy, auto complete, and their battle tactics are great. So
the only thing that surprised me with Guild of Summoners is having to fly to an event and bringing like
several
extra Lord of Changes. Like maybe we should like create a pool of Lord of Changes.
What I really want to see is the teams that fly in a couple of days early, and while singles is going on, there's just some like the assistant. In my head, every team's assistant is just a poor, beaten down human being in the back, just like building and painting stuff, just being like, "Yes, it'll be ready, I promise." And that's in my head. That's everyone.
There's some really fun potential faction prizes, like the Gitz player that brings the most back with the clammy hand. You know,
don't reward that.
The Guild of Summoners. It's fun.
That's like if your dog craps inside your house and then you're like, "Good job." Like you don't reward that.
I think so. Like who summons the most Lords of Change? Like over the
that would be a good
one. That's a good one, right? Like that's a good.
It's going to be Stephen Follows, but it would be a good one. Yeah,
it would be a good one.
See, I think what we should do is we should get a large like fake hand dip it in some kind of water, and then like dry it off, so it's just clammy. It's not moist, it's clammy. And then every time they bring back something with the clammy hand, you slap that player across the face with it, just so that they know what they did.
Again, Tom, I'm not sure you're okay with violence at the event. I don't think.
No. What we could alternatively do is just
fine.
walk up to Ronya's opponent and feel their hand, and it's probably clammy.
That's probably true.
That's true. And so you have a problem with me slapping people with like some kind of fake hand, but you don't mind walking around the event touching the hands of the competitors.
Well, you can ask for consent. Even you can. I know you're unsupervised, but
I always consent to a good slapping.
Let's talk about consent, because it's important when you're talking about Kharadron Overlords, because they're not gonna ask for any. They are going. They're here for they're here for the Thunder
boys.
So in third place, or
they
the
take
third
their
most
oath, right?
Yeah, Exactly. They've taken their oath. Time
to go.
In the third most popular, along with LRL, is the brand new Kharadron Overlords, but currently the best win rate in singles Age of Sigmar, 65% plus. Pretty interesting. There are a lot of Thunderers at this event. A lot of Thunderers. In fact, I think I have the stats on that somewhere.
Is 65% the highest in 3.0?
65% is the highest in 3.0. No. Gargants were 70 at one point. Yeah. In 3.0, like this in the past.
First season.
I think this is like the highest win rate this year, like in the past year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Of an army that has been played enough for its stats to be like fair across it. You know, it's not like there's just two people playing them that keep 4-0ing and getting it an 80% or something like that.
They're a very, very successful faction.
Yeah, it's not big one.
There are 38 different Thunderer selections across the 19 armies. Just to keep everyone aware, 30 Aether Chemists, who I assume are hanging out with those Thunderers and holding hands. You've got a bunch of Archonauts Admirals. There are 26, and don't forget there are only 19 armies. So there's quite a lot of them. There's only 19 armies, and there are 30
only
Aether
19?
Chemists. Yeah.
That's the thing, though, that like the Archanaut Admiral in a boat, getting to command boat, so you get a free command to the boat from the admiral every turn, is fantastic. A frigate doing the assault boat charge, always strikes first for stuff that gets out, is incredible. I think the flexibility of KO being both either a shooting option or a combat option is spectacular, and that's why so many different teams have taken it.
Why not both? Which is more, like, how many more? Like, Ironclad's 500 points and a frigate's only 300. But which do you think they're more of? More frigates or more ironclads? Tom, I know you know. Yeah, chat, I know you know. Jeffrey, do you know?
What?
How more frigates or more ironclads?
I think frigates.
It's correct. There are more frigates. There are 15 frigates and 13 ironclads. But there are only 19 lists, so it's pretty incredible. There's a lot of boats.
One guy with 3 frigates, I even think.
There is a guy with 3 frigates, yes. And he's running. I did a review on that. An Endrin Rigger, an Endrin Master, and then 2 times 9 riggers.
18,
which is pretty cool. Yeah, I like that.
It's like there's a list, like the list that you featured in the like flash up that you released earlier today. There's one that has 3 frigates but only like 2 combat units, meaning that one of the frigates is an assault boat without combat dudes in it, probably just cruising around being like, we came here to hit stuff, and like, who's in you? No one. It's just the boat.
Well,
we're here to punch you with a boat.
Yeah, they got a crew. They're just doing mortal wounds on the charge, which, and when they move over stuff, which is positive.
It's kind of heartbreaking that frigates on the charge are better at mortal wounding things than like an Ogre Stonehorn is. That breaks my heart just a teeny tiny little bit, but that's okay. That's fine.
That's okay. Yeah, these are very strong.
Do we have a lot of? I didn't check the amount of gun haulers.
Oh, gun haulers. There are but 5. 5 little fellas, which is fine. Yeah, but 38 Thunderers. This is I don't know, Jeffrey. I said KO. You got out your chair. They're a pretty strong faction.
Yeah.
Maybe even more so than Gitz. I feel like I wondered. Interestingly, I asked 2 different very high profile players who play Lumineth Realm-lords in KO yesterday. I was like, who wins? KO, LRL, pair in, and I'm not gonna tell. Like, I ask everyone in isolation so as to not fuck with the teams, and they were both like, they both just gave me a different answer. I was like, well, fuck it, I don't know either. Then, like, they were like, whoever wins a roll off on the 1 drop, I'm not sure. Jeffrey, you got any thoughts? Who wins?
Literally that.
What do you think, Tom?
I think KO.
Oh,
I've seen a matchup happen, and if Lumineth take first turn, and they are, if it's a 1 Ironclad list, and they're able to take first turn, and then they can take it out, and that's a win. But if the KO guy goes first, there's no more. I think there's not a lot of Lumineth left. So yeah, I think Lumineth can definitely win that game, but it's hard. And if they whiff on the dice, they're gone.
And it also depends what's in the boat. I mean, repairing every end of the turn.
Yes. But if you do hit an AoE spell at the boat, you hit at the boat, everything inside the boat, which is why we
AoE rune, that's going to take some guys out.
Yeah.
That's where the best counter against a boat is Noblars, because they just fling poop.
For sure.
Like, they move, fling poop, they charge, fling poop at the boat and everything inside of the boat.
And the Cathalar.
Yeah, and
the Cathalar.
Yeah. So what do we think? Do we think, or maybe even Be'lakor? I don't know. Like, that's kind of interesting. We'll talk about Be'lakor not being on the list. The KO problem, because I feel like there are also answers to KO as well. I'm going to shout them out now, see if I'm wrong. But like, if I was KO, I'm going to avoid the Beast of Chaos Bulgor Rush. I'm going to not want any of that, so I can bully the KO out of some pairings on that one. But I don't know, like if Jeffrey was talking about earlier, if I put KO down as a defender, I don't know who I attack with, who's also like Beast of Chaos. Yeah, alongside Beast of Chaos, which is interesting.
Well, if that was the case, are KO one of those lists that you would offer 2 bad matchups to, or would you offer them an easy win or a loss? And let your, like, which would you do? Like, because KO are like one of those big scary bully lists. Do you just drop your pants and let them do their thing and take the loss and try to scrape some points back, or do you offer them a toughie?
I think the problem with
That's
KO
a tough one.
I think the problem with KO
depends on the battle plan.
Yeah, it depends on a lot of factors actually.
Yeah, it's all like the fucking runes before you get there, Dan. Basically, they're like, what's the army I'm playing? What stage in the pairing process are we? And what battle plan are we pairing into? Like,
brushing the numbers, right?
Yeah. Like, which is why so much prep work goes into it. I guess maybe this is a good opportunity to bring up the fact that over the course of a round, Tom, let's not get fallout over this. This is fine. Yeah, I know we're on the same page. But over the course of the round, you'll pair those teams of 8 will pair into 4 different battle plans, which is obviously stupid.
Terrible.
Right? But team captains love. Right?
I love that it's over. But I'm gonna be I disagree. I think it's rad. Twists and turns, baby.
No. What do you think, Tom? What are your thoughts? And the reason is because then what you actually see is you just pair so. I think it's fair to say, based off last year, that Team England's winning strategy was that they paired into the battle plan and they never paired into the matchups.
Tom Mosley is just so good at pairing. Yeah, and I think in their case, it's half of the points you can earn is in the pairing, especially if all your players are like equal level or very solid. If I got my vote, I'm not sure if we are 100% on the same page with Together Roll, but if it was up to me, I would play 2 battle plans per round, so 4 and 4, because I do like the diversity, and it gives a little bit of an extra game within the pairing. But having 4 per round, and that meaning we can, we're gonna enjoy twists and turns twice, and lurkers below twice. I don't like it. For the people that don't know, I am the TO and the head ref, but I don't make all the decisions myself. So for some decisions that don't really influence my my job as a referee or organizer, for example, the battle plans played, we issue a vote to the captains, and this is one of the topics we issued a vote on. I gave them 3 options. I believe it was 6 matchups total, so 1 battle plan per round, 2 battle plans per round, or do it the same as last year, which means we will see all battle plans twice. And yeah, a big majority voted still on the to keep it the same as last year. It's not my preference, but in the end, for me as an organizer or a referee, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't change my job at all. So yeah, that's where we are.
I was so surprised.
I know you were against it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also, I mean, I was there last year and I saw many people complain about.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, and especially because some of the worst battle plans were played in 1 round.
Same this year.
So you'd have them all at once.
Yeah, so what happens if in 6 rounds, to explain a little bit for the people at home, there are good missions and not so good missions to play on. GW, every year they release a battle pack with missions, and 6 or 7 are good to okay, 2 are and then 2 or 3 are just terrible. And even though some TOs put them in the final game, Rob.
This has to be defended, man. That's what all I can say.
Sure. But what happens is, for me as a TO, I issued the vote, I got the results back, and then it gave me some problems. It gave me some food for thought, because some of the missions are so skewed that they will result in a 20-0 result very easily, which means a round can be very swingy. So I had to make a choice between screwing up 2 rounds of the 6, because I would split up the bad missions into 2 rounds, or which is what I did, I put them all in 1 round. Because if we're going to have the skewed round, it's going to be 1 round and not 2. So I think it's round 3 or 4, but it's going to be crazy.
I was about to say day 2. Day 2 has the spice.
Yes, yeah. So that's going to be crazy. So I'm not sure if it's the correct choice, but it's the choice I made just to avoid having 2 very swingy rounds in one event.
That might just
be the first Vegas,
time
baby.
That might just be the first time I ever get drunk in my life. I might just get hammered. Just get hammered.
Hey, I'm here for it, man.
If that is round, I'm trying to remember. I think it might be round 3. If I'm remembering correctly, then it is round 3.
Oh, it's
round
2 and
2 and 4. 2 and 4. Yeah, every round is repeated twice. So
all I'm saying is the game after. Rob, you and I are going to be fucked. We're just going to be like it makes sense, but everything inside of me is bleeding that shouldn't. Like, there's blood in places it's not supposed to be.
Anyway, so sorry. The reason I bring that up is because pairing into the battle plans is going to be an important strategy that is so nascently different to what we're discussing, which is just armies. Armies playing into missions is something like. So when we do talk about
can I get
KO,
a cross turn 1 or not?
Yeah, exactly, and so Tom's exactly right, because some of those missions work much better if you get the choice to go first, if you can go first, and when you double that up with KO's advantage, because different to Tzeentch, KO have got the capacity. KO only win big. KO table you, and then they table you very, very well. Or I think KO are such a dynamite army that you have to explode them, otherwise they just delete everything that you've got. Because their output is insane, so they're not they're a win huge army. So you don't normally put a lose army into those because you will lose massive. You can't get points out of that, in my personal opinion. But those battle plans will also be fairly consequential as well for being able to achieve that. Anyway, that's why I brought that up in the middle. I know, interesting question, interesting kind of situation. So that's KO, I think. Lot of Thunderers. I don't think there's anything else to say about KO. Is there? Do you guys think?
Rather no. Let's just.
I think. I
have a proposal for Tom though.
Yeah. Finally, after 3 years.
Yeah. You are financing stuff, right? For players and attendance and stuff.
Financing stuff.
Can't we put all the KO players on a boat?
And then lose the boat. Just
That's sure. So what it's good because you're saying put them in their happy place.
And all the Gitz players I'm putting on mushrooms.
Okay, perfect.
And then you're also going to hire a therapist for everyone that plays against the KO players too, to just stand there and be like, and tell me, what did it feel like when they all got out of the boat and had always strikes first? How did that make you feel?
Yeah, well, actually, that's on the rarer side. Just go through all the armies, and again, all those lists will be available later for everyone. It's just Thunderers, man. Like, it's just Thunderers all the time, all the way down.
It's not having to risk trading in combat is where KO shine, and it's where they're going to be.
And 4+ rally.
And 4+ rally. Yeah.
Shouldn't be in the game.
Of course not. Right, Lumineth Realm-lords are also got. There's 19 Lumineth Realm-lords armies. So if in case you thought you could avoid the shooting gallery that was the KO, just look what comes over the hill. It's some more arrows, like a load of arrows. And most of these lists are obviously tech lists and sentinels. There are a bunch. There is at least one, which is a great list. No tech list, more sentinels, which I really respect. That's a great list. They're like,
The French.
It's like, oh, we just can't fit that many sentinels into a list unless we don't have tech lists. And they're like, yeah, tech list has to, decide what spells to cast, whereas sentinels, they just decide to shoot you more. So let's do that.
Yeah. So and then the Zytrek ones, don't be mistaken, they're also techless castles. They're just the other ones. And then Eumetrica, one of them has got techless and some Stone Guard and some sentinels.
It's a solid list, though.
That is a good list. That's my favorite. That's the Norwegian list, right?
Yeah. Exactly. My favorite is the Danish list, because it doesn't have any sentinels, I believe.
Oh, which one?
The runes with the cow and
yes.
I like that one a lot. And it's a brave choice.
It's a very brave choice. It's a very brave choice. So those ones, they feel like both those pair up well as attackers into an army. Personally, KO and LRL. But they also have a natural predator now. Khorne is out and about, and that's quite interesting because they're going to get a lot of blood tithe from those matchups. So I don't know,
for sure.
I don't know if they pair them into it. Like, I'm not sure. I don't know what you think. Do you think you pair Khorne into that?
I think you're like most lists that have taken Khorne, that's going to be their anti-magic pairing more so than their anti-shooting pairing. So like I think Khorne's going to go into wherever they can, LRL and Tzeentch, and not so much KO.
What do you think, Tom? Jeffrey? Either one.
I haven't seen the matchup yet, to be honest. But I mean, I get that people are automatically thinking because they are anti-magic that they are good into Lumineth. But in my mind, like Techless doesn't just use magic against their opponents. The 5 of War, Total Eclipse. It's all stuff that doesn't target anything. And I don't know how Khorne is gonna deal with all those fucking arrows, to be honest.
They're gonna get shot by it and be happy to do it because they're like, please, yes, thank you, Daddy, more blood type points.
You see the Blood Warriors lists. I think the French have it. Some other teams have it as well.
3 times 20 Blood Warriors.
Yeah, and they have a 4+ rally in the list, so you cannot target the Slaughter Priest because it's going to be next to the guys, and you won't be able to kill it with magic, I think, because of the spell ward. It just won't be reliable enough. So I think that plays very well into the shooting, and I'm Slaves to Darkness player myself. Well, I switched to Khorne actually, but I've been playing Slaves to Darkness for a long time, and I think Ravagers actually plays very well into Lumineth. I've played the matchup a couple times now. I've also joined the Dutch team for a team event in Germany 2 months ago and played Lumineth 3 times. I don't see how you can lose that matchup with some of the Ravagers lists actually, especially if you have Archaon.
Okay. What is it they do so well into Lumineth?
Well, what you can do is you turn off Inspiring Presence, you throw Archaon in, and you do the 6-7 mortal wounds to one unit. You hit the other unit, and both units are gone. Turn 1 or 2.
Perfect. All right, nice.
And they can't Inspiring Presence, and the new Lumineth lists don't have the spare points. Don't have the spare points for the Triumph, so they're just gone. And sure, shoot off 2 or 3 of my units. I'll just put them right back.
That's a good point. That's interesting.
And 5 Splintered Fang that you've put back, they will can almost wipe a unit of Sentinels because they have a shit save against mortals. Well, you could maybe they have the 5-up, but I think it's a good matchup. But yeah, the Ravages is not very prominent, so I think they're going to try to get Khorne in there, and I'm very curious to see how that goes. But I think it's a good matchup. I think especially for the mortals.
Yeah, because this is the interesting thing. I think there's some really good counters to some armies. LRL is like the army we're currently talking about, but you've got a good matchup. You need two if you're going to try and push them out, which I think is which is challenging, my personal opinion. Okay, just going back. So LRL, we talked about KO. Has been next. My favorite, actually. This is the one I'm most looking forward to this weekend. 15 of the 24 armies are taking, or not this weekend, but the coming, taking Beasts of Chaos, and this is, I think for me, this is the huge win army. This is the secret sauce, and it's only in 15 armies, which I think is kind of weird. Sorry, only in 15 teams. Maybe people didn't get the memo. Maybe their composition is different. But they're almost all 9 Bulgor and a bunch of Raiders. So like an absolute meat fist.
Shoot the screens from off the board and then the Bulgor come in and wreck your day.
Yes. But some of them are like, why don't we just shoot everything? With like 90 Raiders, and they shoot all of the stuff.
Like 100 and what would you like to do? I'd like to take 180 shooting shots that my opponent can do nothing to diminish over the course of the whole game. It's like, are you actually going to paint those models? No. Yeah. They never touch the board.
Yeah, it's really great to give everyone some kind of indication of how these armies are composed. There are 22 Great Bray Shamans over 15 armies. There are 14 Doom Bulls over that as well. So there are there's one that doesn't have a Doom Bull and has a Beast Lord instead. Then there are 22 picks of Bulgor, almost always 9s, although there are a couple of 6s, which is interesting. And then Ungor Raiders. There are many Ungor Raiders. There are Grundstrock Thunderers. There are a lot. And these are a really unique army because they can null deploy. And I think all of the armies that we've just talked about, apart from Gitz, they play very well into. They play well into LRL. They play well into KO. They play well into Tzeentch. So they're a good new bully army on the tabletop, which I think is quite fun. But I don't know where you're going to pair that into.
I was just going to ask, where do you think, because a lot of the castle armies like to use a board edge somewhere, if not two, to kind of like build the flanks of their castle. How do you think that's going to play in when you've got, knowing you're going into matchups where you could potentially have tons of Ungors off the board edge behind you, just shooting the hell out of the backfield of your castle?
Again, those missions, like Tom and Jeffrey have said, are super important, so that's pretty quintessential. But I don't know, like Tom, you played against a new Beast of Chaos recently. Have you experienced that?
I played against. So I have a friend. His name is Kai. He's going to play the singles, and he always wants to play the meme list. So he was like, "Tom, I don't know what to play. What am I playing?" So I gave him Simon's 21 Chaos Spawn list.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I'm the one he has to practice against. So I've been playing against the 21 Chaos Spawn list a couple times now, which is not very fun. I haven't played with or against the new Beast of Chaos. I have seen the army played a couple times, and yeah, it's really good. Especially some players using Be'lakor to make it extra. Beast of Chaos is a great army to actually give away the double from 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Because they don't have anything on the board, and yeah, they want to like lure you out. And if you don't come out of your castle, they will drag you out of your castle. And Be'lakor is an extra piece there that some armies can use. But I think it's fantastic, and I think the playstyle changed a lot from the last book, but it's still insanely good. It's insanely good.
Yeah. Jeffrey, you happened to play against this yet?
Yes, once.
Doesn't sound like you liked it.
Last time. No, but I think, I think Beast of Chaos is just like us. They always show up 5 minutes late, but for them it works in their favor, right? They come on the board turn 2, and you didn't get to do your thing. I think it's great. It's so different to many other armies, and I love that they are countering the meta.
Yeah, they're my wild card for the highest win rate faction over the weekend. Over the teams event. I think they're the list that can get the highest win. in my opinion. But we'll see if that ends up being like the faction with the highest win rate. We'll see, because I think they could play into quite a lot of the problem armies, and I'm not sure if the problem armies will take that on. We'll see. But go on after you.
Oh, I was going to say, isn't it different like a season can make as well, seeing that change in...
Well, Beasts of Chaos were everywhere last Worlds as well, but the army was completely different. Yeah,
Which
so
is, like, actually speaking of, how do you feel, Rob, as somebody who plays Tzeentch as well, that we've seen the Kronspine go from being, you know, the Beasts of Chaos stand to being in more Tzeentch lists this event?
Yeah, I think that's common. That makes sense. I think that's one of the only ways that Tzeentch does well. But I mean, that's also not proven. Like that opinion is wrong. I've said it multiple times. Every week I'm like, Tzeentch will lose. Every week I'm like 5-0. 5-0. I'm like, I don't know how it's happening. So that's the one I'm most excited about personally. Beast of Chaos. There are a couple of Cygor there are 2 Cygor. There's a Bestigor block as well. Some people have got some Zangor on feet. There's a couple of Chaos Gargants, and there's a lot of cockatrices. But it's all about those Bulgor. 22 picks on the Bulgor out of 15 armies. So there's multiple Bulgors in different armies. And then 38 picks in Ungor Raiders. Probably with a shout out to Pedro. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like because he has 90 raiders, so he's shooting 180 shots off board, which is
my question is
amazing.
Does he own 90 raiders?
Yeah, definitely.
Like does he actually own 90 of these models, or is it one unit never going to touch them?
Yeah, I've seen a picture. They're great. It's quite interesting as well, because this isn't a list that I see playing in singles at all. Like almost all of the lists, those 15 lists are almost identical in many ways. There's a Beast Lord with a Doom Bull with the same command trait, 2 Great Bray Shamans, 9 Bulgor, and then Raiders. And then whatever battle line you need. And that's pretty much all. That's I think that's 13 of the 15, with Pedro and someone else being a little bit different. But I don't see that in teams list at all at the moment. Not teams, a singles list at all at the moment. So I don't know if they have a natural predator out there, maybe Gitz, not sure, but they're not doing great in singles, but 15 teams think that these are the answer, which is kind of interesting. So,
which is kind of it's great, seeing that change though, seeing that the change between the two, and where we have the singles the 2 days prior coming into this, it'll be interesting to see if anyone's running similar lists that change between.
Yeah, I don't know. Tom, you got any way to beat him? Just
Beast of Chaos?
Yeah.
Well, I can't really tell. I don't want to spoil Jeffrey's strategy.
Okay, yeah, don't do that then. Okay.
Ravagers can do it also because of the sheer amount of board you're going to cover. If they actually null deploy, you could literally
zone them out.
Zone them out. Yeah, I have tested it, and you can do it. So you would get the what's the 40k WTC reference?
The picture.
Yeah, you would literally get that option. But there are obviously armies that can beat him because they don't have 100% win rate. But it's a difficult list to play against, especially because in my local meta, and maybe I don't know how it is for other people, but there's not a lot of Beasts of Chaos here actually. So if you don't really have a lot of experience playing against it, someone's going to null deploy, and you're going to be like, I have no fucking clue what to do. It just plays such a different game of Warhammer. Like when KO came out a couple years ago, that some people just won't have no clue what to do against it, which is a big plus.
Yeah, I feel like practicing the Beast of Chaos matchup is probably the one you need to practice most, because I think if you get randomly paired into that, then you are in danger. Because that Beast of Chaos player knows exactly what they want to do.
You're going to get caught out.
Yeah.
And I think.
Go on, Dan.
Oh yeah. So is my question? You were talking about people pairing into the scenario.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Like if that is one of the matchups where you can't just pair into the scenario. You need to pair into beasts, especially this particular list.
I don't know. Maybe some missions where you where all the objectives are more centrally located. Because they project a lot of power from the side of the board, could be quite interesting. But yeah, they're a very interesting army, and specifically could be some big upsets, like the power armies, especially we talked about KO. As a beast player, I'd be super comfortable going into a KO matchup, in my opinion. So like, and those KO armies should be like, you're getting 20. You're writing down 20. I want 20 from this KO list. Off you go. I would say. So that's quite interesting. Anything else on beasts? Do you think we should talk about before we move on?
You mentioned Gitz. I'm not really sure how they would do against Gitz.
I think they would lose to Gitz.
Those mortar wounds are going to hurt him from the squig herd.
I think they do a load of output, but I don't think they kill enough stuff.
Exactly. And if you don't kill enough, you kill nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I also like the temptation dice interaction with the Ungor Raiders when they are shooting from the side of the board, because you can still offer them.
Yes.
So they are taking wounds or giving you depravity, sure. But if they take the wounds, they still have to battle shock. So I'm curious how that will play out.
Okay. All right, that's quite interesting. Well, talking about depravity, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Jeffrey. Great work.
Hey.
Moving on to Slaanesh, there are 14 armies. And they're a little bit more diverse than Gitz. There is 13 pretenders armies and then one absolute legend who's playing God.
He just misclicked. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he was like, I want to be one of
All
these.
the players are sweating now. They're like, oh, did I do this?
It was like they were clicking like alphabetically and accidentally went,
So a cool thing about
insane.
Slaanesh is that they have the unit that's been taken most at AOS Worlds, the most individual versions of them at least, in 39 units of Blissbarb Archers, which I can't wait to see the shocking paint jobs on those Blissbarb Archers.
Because they've been done in the last literally 30 days.
Yeah,
they've been done.
Jeffrey's look good,
Jeffrey's look
remember?
good. Jeffrey, are you playing this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How are yours looking? Good?
I'm lucky enough to have a speed painting commission painter on my side, which helped me out.
Yeah.
So they look great.
Okay, perfect.
Colorful.
Remember when they came out?
Tempting.
Remember when they came out? Like it was like they were like great model. You'll never see them on the table. Like when they first released the models, and now, whoo, what a glow up!
There are loads of them. Loads. It's not just that like there's always 3 because they come in units of 11. So it's not like there are just 11, 11, 11. Normally it's like 22, 22, 11. There's loads of them. Absolutely tons of them, which is kind of interesting. But Slaanesh is still quite a new army on the tabletop, and they haven't seen a lot of play. Slaanesh and Khorne are a kind of interesting place. They came out at the same time. I think the power in Slaanesh is a little bit more obvious than maybe in Khorne, which is maybe why you're seeing more Slaanesh armies. I'm not sure what they're particularly good into because they're fighting and they're shooting. So they're not as skew as some other armies. But they do have a very good tempo because they snowball well. I don't know, Jeffrey, if that's correct. Obviously, you've been playing a lot. Would you say they snowball well?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Because, I think a lot of players have Glutos as well. Or
Three.
I don't know.
Yes,
I think
only
there's
three people have Glutos. Yeah.
Which surprised me because he's an auto take for me. Actually.
Oh, he's great, right?
Yeah.
His base,
I'd
his
rate him
base
over
is
the keeper.
huge. He has the -1 to hit, so if you have your 12 depravity, you can say goodbye to your all-out attack. I think he's like Morathi a little bit. I compared him to the Morathi and the Bow Snakes a little bit, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Because they basically do the same thing. Yeah, the only difference is that they have to engage more because they have the shorter range. So once you go in and you shoot, you are being threatened more because you have to go across the board and your castle moves up more than Morathi and the Bow Snakes. But yeah, I
had a
guess.
triple redeploy.
Yep.
But it's also like I actually think that that's a strength to their army as well, because when Morathi and the Bow Snakes, you really kind of want to keep the snakes back, like your castle kind of safe there. Slaanesh almost pushes you forward in that with your overlapping fire from multiple units of archers, and so you're pushing forward, and it's easier for you to compete on objective play. because you have to. Whereas
Well, it's because you're
like
actually fighting with something at the front line, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
As
Well, there
opposed
are.
But
to,
also the temptation dice are really annoying because at first, like my first 2-3 games, people were just handing me depravity all the time because it's people's instinct to not take mortal wounds.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
once you rack up your depravity real fast, you really, like you said, you start to snowball. But you start to snowball a bit too fast because the 5-up ward army wide is really gonna be tough on your opponent. So that takes they are actually a glass cannon, but that takes it off, right? Once they have the 5-up ward. So after a few games, people found out they started taking the mortal wounds, but the number of mortal wounds you dish out during a game is huge, and it's annoying. It's annoying as hell because you will be at moments where you just don't know what to choose.
That's
Am I gonna give him Am I gonna give him his 5-up ward or his 6s are a mortal wound in addition, or am I gonna take another fucking battle shock here?
Especially in an edition where galley vets are so important.
You mean
Yeah,
Galley
like-
Champs?
like- Galley champs, sorry,
Yeah.
I always mix that up. Where galley champs are so important. So low wound, small models, where you're forcing your opponent to think about whether do I want to shoot with this or do I want to charge this person in, because it's so easy for Slaanesh to use that to either generate depravity or hand out mortal wounds on something that doesn't have many to begin with. It's huge.
Yeah, but also you can use it in your opponent's turn. So take the Lumineth Sentinels as an example. They have 2 units. They both want to shoot. You offer them some depravity, temptation dice, and if they take the wounds and you spike a bit, they have to battle shock.
Yeah,
It's super annoying.
It sounds also very interesting as well, because when you do read the lists are a bit cookie cutter, like Battleline, Bliss Barbs. You see that a lot. There's obviously there's Glutos. There's normally some Slickblade Seekers, a unit of 5, maybe a unit of 10. A Keeper of Secrets, not always a Keeper of Secrets. There are 14 armies, and there are 5 Keeper of Secrets, so actually not that many. There are 14 Contorted Epitomes, though. Which kind of makes sense.
Auto-take.
Yeah, auto-take, because they're +1 to wound for everyone, which is pretty crazy. And then there are 3
Do you have
Glutos.
info on the Grand Strat? Sorry, Rob. Do you have
Sorry,
info on the Grand Strat?
Not yet, no, sorry. Again,
I'm curious to see if they all took the I'm not going to summon, I'm just going to farm depravity auto-take.
I did it.
Yeah, you did.
I would
didn't
expect
check
it to be that and take what's theirs. Like I'd expect to see Slaanesh like handing out take what's theirs, given that a playstyle for them is usually push forward.
True,
yeah,
but it's also good for many other armies.
That's true. Yeah.
But the summoning table is trash, so if you just take the no summon, you have a autocomplete.
3 points.
You don't want to give up your 5-up ward for summoning, and if you need your summoning to get more control of the board, you're probably losing anyways.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Pretty varied. I'm checking.
I'm kind of excited about Slaanesh because I feel like the Slaanesh players know what they're doing. The lists are written clearly with the intent of knowing what they're doing as well. But they're an army that wants to generate tempo from early. In my opinion, Jeffrey, if I'm wrong, please let me know. But I feel I feel like they want to generate tempo from early, and a lot of the armies we just discussed, specifically Gitz, KO, LRL, are not going to want to give you early tempo. They're going to take it and then throw it in your face, like in my personal opinion. So I think that's kind of interesting because that army wants to play into something that plays slower, and so it's got a bit of a weakness. But I don't know. Who knows? I mean, you guys know, maybe. I don't know.
How many of those lists are 1-drop? I'm curious.
Again, to be looked at. There's so much to go through.
Yeah.
How don't you know this already, Rob?
This is so much information.
Why isn't this already in your head?
Well, so we have made, Tom has made a document so that we can start analysing just all of the different factions as a singular section. And I'm going to do some shows just breaking down each faction and those elements inside of them, which will be really useful in the future. Take what's theirs 2, Glutton for Depravity 5. So that's the most popular one, Jeffrey. So Tom, you were right on that. You were right. Okay, so if we rifle through, next up, Slaves to Darkness. This one actually really surprised me. Tom, you're the Slaves to Darkness player, so maybe you can tell me. Slaves to Darkness, I was not expecting this, but mainly because a lot of the singles lists are not Knights of the Empty Throne, but almost all of these 9 of the 13 Slaves to Darkness lists are Knights of the Empty Throne. And this kind of surprised me a lot. Can you work out why? Do you know why?
Well, it's probably with normally you see a lot of Kabbalists and singles.
Yes, you do.
At least I'm going from the top of my head now, but you see a lot of Kabbalists. I think Knights of the Empty Throne is solid in the way that it's pretty linear. So we haven't talked about a lot, but there's a lot of at Worlds you're gonna have decision fatigue. Because you're playing for 3 days. Some people are also playing singles, playing for 5 days in a row. So this is the type of army you can play, and I think it's an army that will give you some less decision fatigue at the end of the event. It's more linear. You know what to do, and maybe they picked Knights of the Empty Throne because it's their version of the Iron Jaws you saw last year.
Yeah,
they just want something that will go across the board. We spoke about KO earlier. If you play against on the mission where you're very close together with the 3 objectives, it's only the worthy. I'm not sure, but with the one that has an extra point for the GC in the center, if you play against KO there with your Knights of the Empty Throne, or you play against it on Nidus Path, it's a completely different game because you're going to get your 2 units of Vanguard and maybe your 10 Knights across the table. And you can do a lot of damage into some armies. So it could just be that they wanted to have a strong Alpha Strike army. Personally, I stepped away from Slaves a little bit because I find it a little bit too linear. Especially with all the new books coming out, they have a lot of cool tricks and a lot of fluff, and I was missing that for Slaves a little bit myself. Except with Ravagers, which you see a couple times. I think Greece, the Netherlands, and one other country, but brought Ravagers, I believe.
Yes, there's 3 Ravagers, yes.
Yeah. So that's a completely different play style, which is a lot more board control, trading, and resource management. So yeah, I see Knights of the Empty Throne. It's solid, but I personally I stepped away from it because I'm not sure if it's that good into the meta. It just has too many weak points, I think.
High armor save, and a lot of the lists all kind of read the same. A lot of aggro first turn. You get to run and charge with units that are mounted, obviously, and then you get to throw a bunch of Khorne Vanguard in your face. And there's not tons that can deal with 6 Khorne Vanguard.
Especially with run and charge, and like think about, there are a number of ones that where there are a couple of battle tactics where if your general completes them, like this one's mine or something like that. So
that doesn't work.
Has that been ruled?
Oh,
yeah, that won't work because it's only one model in the unit is your general, not the entire unit, like the old Knights of the Empty Throne.
So you've got to break it down.
They're not a hero. The entire unit becomes a leader, but only one model is your general. So the specific model would have to kill.
See,
a unit.
I just see I see the pace of them as being a good counter for a number of things like KO and stuff like that. Like knowing that you've got that pace, you've got a 5-up rally, they can put them into a boat turn 1 pretty comfortably, and maybe go for that pin if they know they're going to get the outdrop.
You've got a lot of high armor save.
Yeah, but KO can stack Rand so easily, and a lot of armies have so much mortal wounds that, of course, Vanguard are they're okay against mortal wounds, but they don't have a normal ward, so they're still pretty prone against some shooting armies. I don't know. I think I'm also a little bit biased because I love the previous book, and now the new book disappointed me a little bit. So. I might be a little bit biased, but I wouldn't probably bring it personally, but I would love to be proven wrong.
Okay, I just wanted to shout out the Mortal Wound Ward as well. That's what they are good into, right? So look at your Tzeentch. They are very good into Tzeentch. Lumineth, because they shout a lot of mortal wounds, which they can tank really well. I would take them for that more than they have in our armor save.
Yeah, but speaking about Tzeentch, I played against Tzeentch a lot, and 1 -1 to hit, and you're gone. Your knights hit on 4s. Your Varangard hit on 3s, which will become 4s. You can only do +1 to hit maybe once or twice, because of the army is literally +1 to hit a wound, run across the field, hit something. Oh, you have a screen. I'm fucked. Because they have no shooting. They have no way to take off your screen. They have no mortals from spells. Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's true. But I think that's why you see them spreading out the units lately. So I think you see a lot of 6/6 Varangard, 10 knights.
Do you think that they're in, given like we've been talking about how you see things that don't necessarily perform in singles so well are doing quite popular here? Do you think that they're in these lists then to be that midfield list, whether it's to take losses and slow opponents winning, or to like whether they're not necessarily a counter army, but they're just kind of general survivalists in a lot of way, mortal wound, like you all you've got to do is throw an all-out defense on them and they're hard to take off. Like potentially that's where they're sitting, or do you think this is a list that is a counter list rather than kind of just a generalist?
It can counter, but I think it's like, so either you have these few counters that they have, it's not much, or they don't win, they don't lose by much points.
It might not be the best army, but you still have to beat them, and they can do quite some damage if they get across
a lot
fast.
of damage. And it's not like you're not like, I'll just go over there and kill those Varangard. They are tough as hell.
And that's why I'm talking about, like, if you've got 2 units of 6 Varangard and a unit of 10 Knights, which I think is a pretty common breakdown, if they're not all together, they're so fast they can be across the board relatively quickly. And like KO need to bring everything to bear on one unit. Like they can't.
I reckon KO will table most of the army in a turn. Like KO wild
a lot.
Wild.
But they've got to, but they've got to get the shots at it. Is what I'm saying. Like if you've spread your army wide enough, they're trying to spread.
But will they give you the chance to spread
on the board?
Yeah, true.
So they have 0 screens because the Corvus are in the sky. They have 2 units. Most lists, I think, have 2 units of Corvus Cabal. I used to play 1 unit of Corvus, 1 unit of Unmade, because Unmade are, in my opinion, one of the best units in the game, especially for their points. But they would probably put 2 units of Corvus in the sky, or they put 1 unit down as a screen, which is nothing, because it's just. I think KO would like blast right through because they can, especially turn 1. There's no Mystic Shield up.
Okay, so we're going to keep going. Sorry, just to go through. Otherwise, we'll be here forever. Blades of Khorne. There are 12 Blades of Khorne players here.
Amazing.
And this is kind of similar as Slaanesh, brand new. There's a fair split between. This is definitely not the same as Slaanesh. Slaanesh, they're like, we're going to shoot you with our bliss barbs, we're going to do the contorted epitome, and we're going to slap you in the face with something. Like that's their general scheme. But Blades of Khorne players are like, maybe I like Bloodletters, and then the other guys are like, maybe I like Blood Warriors, and you're like,
and then some mad person's like, I'm going to take 4 Skull Cannons.
Yeah. That's in there.
Fantastic.
That's legit. Yeah. So this is kind of an interesting one. They're a great teams list because they're very good against magic, as we talked about earlier. Maybe they lose to all the arrows, not sure. When I reviewed it, I said it seems like the Bloodlords, there's more of them, 5. They do more damage than your like more mortal version, but they're a little bit more squishy, but they've got really good healing. But then, so I'm not really sure how I feel about this. I'm very interested to see how they do. They have maybe one of the strongest Allegiance abilities ever, with the Blood Tide being able to just move into combat constantly. Is incredibly good if you haven't seen it on the tabletop. It's so effective. I don't know. Yeah, Tom, you've been playing it. How have you found it?
Yeah. I have to say that without it, the books, I think it's 50% of the quality of the book is Murderlust. Because if they take that away, you have a big problem. Because I think some of the points are pretty high. But the book has a lot of tricks. It has a lot of play. You could have like 3 units, 4 units on the board, and you can still do so much. You know, the hero phase move with the prayer, then the hero phase move with the blood tithe. Shoot off ping units with the meteor, fight in the hero phase. Yeah, it's an amazing book. But I think unlike Slaanesh, or maybe unlike the current KO, it's just not been discovered yet, or how can I say it? Like they haven't finished the book yet. It's not been out, and that's why you see a lot of diversity. And I think the abilities that the Blood Tide table gives you means that you can build your list several ways, but you can still access all these lists can still access the same abilities. So you could go for the 60 Blood Warriors or the 60 Blood Ladders, which will both be good. And they both will have access to Murderlust, to this, to that, but still have their own playstyle, be it either the hammer or the anvil.
Yeah, this is the one that I'm most unsure about, because the playstyle is very much like, they're not ultra fast, they're quite fast, and they can have a unit be very, very fast. So it feels like it maybe fights in waves. It's like a mid-board army that fights in waves. But
it's
I feel
a control army. I found.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like everyone's like, when the book came out, everyone's like, "Oh, it's Khorne. It should like totally wipe someone off the board." And maybe fluff-wise, it should maybe have high damage. But it turned out to be much more of a control army in the end than maybe a lot of people were looking for. People were looking at the book and thinking, "Where's the damage?" But it's actually more a control.
That's what I like about Khorne. It's like it's a out of phase sequence for the out of phase sequence movement god. That's what the saying is. I think
like,
that's the saying.
Do you want to ignore turns and phases? Yes, this is the army
it's
for you.
just steps for the blood god.
Walking for the blood god.
Yeah. What do? We are berserk, blood-crazed warriors, and what shall we do? Slowly advance on them, one step at a time. Interesting, we were talking about them being a counter for magic, though. Just to put it out there, of all of these, only 3 units, 3 armies are taking the skulls, the Hexgorger skulls, which you would think if teams were relying on this to be their anti-magic counter, we'd be seeing more. But yeah,
they're already good against magic, so I'm not sure if you
you need to add into
add more to it. Yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to jump into this is where we get to kind of like, there's a bunch of armies. There are 10 Fyreslayers armies, but that's now under half. They are pretty much all the same. Double Flame Keeper.
Ton of bodies.
We have more Mohawks than like average metal concert.
Yeah,
it's just...
yeah. There's a lot of Fyreslayers, but there are 10 of 24. And they're pretty much all double Flame Keeper, and then something for Spice. Sometimes it's the 30, and then 15 Hearthguard Berserkers. Sometimes it's multiple Hearthguard Berserkers. It's not all the same subfaction, though. I'll just be clear. So Vorstrag is tend to be the double Flame Keeper, and Greyfeared gives you the +1 to hit and wound for the Hearthguard Berserkers when they charge. And there are 4 of them of the 10. But they're a mid-board combat army that's incredibly tough to get rid of with a good rally. There's not much else to say about Fyreslayers, but I feel like they're solid in teams.
I was about to say they're absolutely an army that is great in their team. They're not going to stand out in the same way that KO do, but they have a job and they'll do it really well.
Very well, I think. And if the dice go well for you, but not everyone's taking Fyreslayers, which I think is kind of fair. In the pure aggro meta, Gitz, I think, probably can punch through them as a DPS check. KO can punch them as a DPS check.
Nobody wants to paint him.
Yeah, no one wants to paint him.
Yeah. Like, do you have the patience?
Yeah, so they're quite interesting. And then I don't think there's much to say about Fyreslayers. Jeffrey, you got anything to say about Fyreslayers you think is worth saying? They've got a really good battle grand strat for 3 points.
Just roll a lot of dice. Good luck.
Agreed. Yeah. There's not tons to say about them, so we won't.
No, they are pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah. Sylvaneth. There are 7 Sylvaneth armies in attendance, and they tend to switch around between different subfactions. I think for me, and we talked about this off there, the bit that makes me most excited is the fact that there are 2 Oakenbrow. So a bunch of tree lords. There's a really good, I can't remember, one of the Belgian team has got one of my favorite lists, which is Gotrek, a Lariel, and a tree lord. And the thing that I really like about that is just the stomping, strike last, and then Gotrek just going twice. I just like that. I just like Gotrek and a big tree guy together, just fighting.
it's a very clear like decision, you know, like no, those two things are going to run up next to each other, and everyone's like, I know what they're trying to do, but it's good, it works.
Yeah, Belgium also probably one of the hot teams to potentially take out the event. So like it's an intentional choice, right? That list. I don't know. Have you got Jeffrey? You got any thoughts on Sylvaneth?
Yeah. So we are bringing Oakenbrow.
Oh, you're doing an Oakenbrow as well.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I think actually our player kind of inspired a lot of people by taking down some events.
Oh, the Oakenbrow.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So that, I'm a big fan of that. That like there's a go on after you.
Yeah. Sorry. No. I know the tricks, and I think the good thing about Sylvaneth, at least in my opinion, is in any matchup, good or bad. Well, good obviously, but also the bad ones. They at least have a chance of winning. They all start behind on points, like most of the times.
Yeah.
They're very good at controlling the pace of the game, deciding where the fighting happens, etc. And I think that's really good.
Just for everyone at home who just to keep updated, if you are looking for the list, they'll be available at the end of the stream. I'm the one who's stopping Tom and Jeffrey from uploading them online. So I apologise to everyone waiting, all the players waiting to get their lists to read. Something I found torturous for 3 days. They're like, I can't wait to do that all night. You took heart renders in your LRL list. Ooh.
What a unique and spectacular decision.
Yeah.
Yet one guy's taking life takers.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, that's worth a 20-hour talk. That's what that's worth. So yeah, they'll be available at the end. So Sylvaneth. So there's some interesting Sylvaneth lists. We'll talk about those more as we go through. Like other shows, Daughters of Khaine, Morathi, and the Bow Snakes are still on the table. Not as popular. I know Peter from Team Poland played them this weekend at Whammerfest. In fact, I saw him there. But was having a bit of a rougher time against it. Some of the newer armies are just faster and just do more damage, or can survive how much output the Bow Snakes can do now. So it's kind of
everyone knows what it does.
And everyone knows what it does. Yes,
I think
exactly.
that's the bigger problem, is that structure of list has been around for so long that even armies that are probably at a disadvantage against it have the advantage of experience. And there's like, so the more you take it, there's a point, you know, of diminishing return with it.
Yeah, and I also think they just kept on losing screens, basically a little bit the same as Seraphon. So because right now, what do you have, like 2 screens maybe?
Yeah. And also the things that are out there now are murdering like 3 screens and your army. Like exactly. Yeah, there's a lot more units getting across the board now. So Daughters of Khaine,
but damn,
if you want to protect yourself from the double turn, you need more units, right? They are very susceptible of dying real quick, especially if you get doubled.
And if there's one thing Daughters of Khaine players won't do, it's innovate. So that's why we're seeing the same list.
Not known for it.
Thank you.
Not known for it. No, Jeffrey plays Witch Elves. That's the other thing as well, Jeffrey. Like loads of people playing Morathi and the Bow Snakes, but no one's putting all the Witch Elves on the tabletop. And I know you played that, and you play it quite well competitively. Was that never in the run-in as a list for your team?
It was. At least it was in my mind. It's still very good in my opinion, but the rally chains is hitting them,
of course.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think because the key piece in the army was the cauldron, and there's just some armies I cannot protect the cauldron against, and then you're falling apart. I have too many eggs in one basket with that list.
Okay. Makes sense.
So the big boys, the monster trucks, 6 ogres. I'm kind of surprised that there aren't more ogres. Actually, they're simple to play. They've got really high output. They're fairly survivable. They're terrifying on a double. They've got a very aggro first turn. They can, if you wanted to, you can pivot and you can just have the gunline version. and maybe put that into some matchups, because it's kind of interesting. Ogres can just be an all-out combat army to stick in with another attacking combat army, or if you're like, do you know what, I'm going to have a problematic gunline army as a bit of a skew list, and then throw that in. I don't know why. But 6 is still fine. But I would have maybe expected more. I'm not sure. Like, I would like to see more.
I expected more, and the breakdown of sub-factions, like, I'm surprised that there's so much Boulder Head and no Meat Fist. Now, I'm not saying I would have expected a ton of Meat Fist, but just the extra damage on the charge is a great counter to a lot of these armies that want to stand and shoot and things like that. So, or like, for instance, charging a boat with something and then, like, killing off the guys inside of it too. Taking away heroes or units before they can pile out and things like that. It's just, it's an interesting, but I'm guessing the Boulder Head choice is again most Boulder Head or Thunder. Anyway,
Boulder Head. There's one Underguts, and there are 5 Boulder Head.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like, we don't have Cracknels and 5 Tyrants. Like, I'm very disappointed.
I'm disappointed. Not a single one. Not a single one. Yeah. No one's fisting any meat. Which is heartbreaking.
But yeah, I would have expected Meat Fist and Underguts far more than I would have expected Boulder Head. But I think that in the teams thing, they're going to be a great counter. So it'll be cool.
I think they're a problem army. Like, a bunch of Stonehorns on an objective is a problem army. Yeah,
with 2 extra wounds, and that's what they're going to do.
I think they're a problem army, but we'll see. I'm quite surprised. Now we're getting into the dregs. So Deepkin 4, Stormcast 3, Cities 1, literally one man in the world. One man in the world.
Still playing Cities.
Playing Cities. Well, that is one of the most successful Cities players in the world. Which would be really fun to see. Running double Paladors, 2x6, Freddie Leggett, which is pretty crazy. Seraphon being run by Gavin, Nighthorn seeing play, but only 5 armies have brought Nighthorn, which I think is kind of interesting. Soulblight Gravelords, that's old book 3, no Ossiarchs. This is kind of the weirdest bit. I don't know, Ossiarchs have got a natural win into Gitz, but no one wanted to take the punt. Maybe because the pairings are too hard?
Yeah, I think it's because he couldn't guarantee it. Yeah. Like, if for sure they'd be that if you could, definitely, but no, they lose against too many other things for the one-off chance that they get. Yeah, true. I was trying to give them a little out, like a little wiggle room if you're an Ossiarch stan, who's been suffering for long enough. But yeah, the odds of getting that one, like, perfect pair up are way too shitty for them to risk it.
After Worlds, they'll be happy.
Yeah. Brokenly happy. Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Tom, you surprised by no Ossiarchs? An old Soulblight, still fine. There's only 3.
Yeah, it's all zombies, I believe, all 3 lists.
Yes, all zombies.
Yeah.
So much.
So
many zombies.
Yeah. I have to say, I don't see the lists a lot in singles GTs. Might be me. Maybe I just missed them, but I don't see the zombie spam a whole lot in singles. Doing well.
In old book. Yeah.
Old book.
Yeah, in old book money, no, not really. But I think maybe in new book money, yes, because they're going to have the double.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But you were asking me if I was surprised. So I didn't expect a lot of Soulblight, but I certainly didn't expect all 3 of them to be zombie spam, just because I didn't have the feeling it was very prevalent in the meta.
I think it's a good answer to some stuff. It's just a ton. Like, if you give them a ton of bodies to turn into zombies, they're going to just keep doing it all the time.
Sure.
But
and if you're like, and I think this is the other thing as well. We were talking about playing into the scenario. If you don't know what you're going into, a list that is just flooded with bodies can be your dive list to just go in and score objectives and at least make it hard for your opponent to kill enough to outscore you. So I think like that would be, if I was looking at it, why I'd put a heavy zombie list into my team. Is because
I think it's to counter Beast of Chaos. I've been thinking about it a little bit today, because with the units popping out of a gravesite, you can't null deploy because you're gone.
Yes. That's true.
And then a zombie unit of zombies auto running. You're gonna maybe have one unit on the board. They could maybe get the pile in if they're lucky. So they're gonna be covering the board pretty quickly. And even if they give you a space, okay, well now your 9 Bulgors are down, and you take out my screen of 20 zombies. Here's my 6-inch piling, 40 zombies. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I also think if you take armies like the Morathian, the Bow Snakes, Lumineth, maybe Slaanesh as well, they really want to shoot big targets, right? Maybe even KO, actually. And I think an army like Soulblight with just a lot of bodies, they don't give a fuck about their armor or anything. I think they do particularly well in those types of lists, because what the hell are you going to shoot? Okay, you delete that, now it's his turn. He has others.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I'll be really interested to see from Mighty Team Australia, Sam Morgan running 2 units of True Blades. The
2 units,
recent,
2 units of 36. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, are they 36? Is it 36?
16s.
16. Yeah.
So 2 16s of True Blades, which, for those who aren't aware, they're the new Vampire Warcry unit that's come out. Really, wasn't expecting to see that in the list.
It's unlike Sam to take something no one's ever played before. That's such a unique new thing he's never done. And then so we got some Skaven, we got some Maggotkin, and to make sure this doesn't go on too much, because while all of those there's 4 Deepkin, for example, I just don't want this to go on for too much longer, because ultimately fleshing out beyond your big armies, you can see that it drops off very significantly. But the one thing that did surprise me is 2 Cruelboys.
Right?
2 Cruelboys players,
especially in the teams they're in, or one of them is.
Yeah, one in the Welsh team, who were last year hot contenders for the crown, and then who's the other? Which other team got the Cruelboys again? It's I have done some notes. Who?
Czech Republic.
Oh, the Czech Republic. I've got some Cruelboys. Okay, so super fun. Okay, so yeah, just surprised to see them. It's crazy that there's more Cruelboys than Seraphon, but I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, look, the Cruelboys fill an obvious gap, right? They're both going to be Grin and Blades. They're both going to be focused on shooting mortals, and that's kind of going to be the whole purpose behind the list.
I don't know if it's going to be
all they can do.
Though. Yeah, it's all they can do. Badly.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, now getting 2 sneaky tactics, or whatever they're called, who knows? Who knows what we might see? I mean, the ability to force your opponent to put units into reserve.
As long as you have to still roll to see if your battle traits work, it's not going to be a good army.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so annoying when.
Yes.
However, I played against a mate recently who did it, and he got 3 units, and he started 3 of my units off the table, and it was utterly devastating. To my game.
It can.
So,
if it goes off.
It's it's one of those Sex Panther things. 100% of the time, 80% of the time, it works every time, and it's devastating. But
yeah, the problem is just roll a dice on a 3+ if you have a dog with black hair and its paws are white. You roll another dice on a 5+ if your mom's name is Karen. This happens.
Yeah. But if your mum's name is Karen, those Cruelboys will mess up your game plan from turn one.
I suppose it's an interesting kind of gambit to be like, right, we're going to put you into you lose this unless you roll it well kind of mission, right? And then just try and free ball that six games out of 6. It's pretty crazy, but I'm not really certain about it. Okay,
but I mean, let's just put it out there though, right? You put them into KO, right? And then you go for that Hail Mary, because if you could take 1 or 2 of those Thunderer units that have deployed in the boat and be like, put them into reserve. They're like, wait, what? And they're like, they're not in the boat. They're not on the board. They're in reserve. They're like, but I need them. Like, yeah, so good luck.
But then all that'll happen is they'll just wait till the next turn, then shoot you to death.
Oh yeah, but I mean, hey, they get a whole turn. That's longer than Cruelboys normally last against
true.
KO.
That is super true.
The problem would be that I have to think, can they embark and then move the boats?
Yes, but reinforcements come at the end of the movement phase.
Yes. So they'd be down for 2 turns,
Yeah.
2 battle rounds,
Okay.
possibly.
So
Anyway,
like,
I think that the Cruelboys are there for a very specific job.
I do
I'm
not
just
agree.
not certain that they do that job very well or very reliably.
I just reckon that they're there just because someone was like, I like these. These are nice.
What happened to the whole
I
Orc
can't
book
imagine
anyways?
Simon being like, "Oh yeah, sure, yeah, you want to bring that army? Yeah, let's." They will have a plan with it.
You think they'll have a plan?
Wills will, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know the Czech players that well, but I can't imagine how calculative Simon is that he's just going to bring something and be like, "Lol."
Okay, so just to round the show off, so this is
Other side of your face, Tom, looks better.
yeah, yeah. So to round the show off, the lists are going to go online very soon for everyone who are playing in the teams. Where are we going to be able to find those lists, Tom and Jeffrey? Like, where are they going to go for everyone to publicly go look at them?
Yeah, so we have a website where the games will be, where you will be able to see the pairing and where the coaches and the teams will be able to input their results, and it's called Pun Pun. You've probably heard the Pun Pun song from Rob. The funny thing is we're talking about all these armies, but we're going to turn it into a dance event anyway.
Yeah.
So it's kind of pointless.
Show me the
But
Pun Pun.
yeah, so I'm going to open up Pun Pun any minute now, so we'll be able to see all the singles and the team lists, and after that we will also publish the PDF on awarsworlds.com and put it in the Discord chat for the captains that are watching. But they've all been very patient in the Discord, so but they'll see the list when they arrive. I got time. Maybe we should make sure they don't do an all-nighter, Rob, and just put them in the morning. What do you think?
I agree. Well, I thought we could round the show off by looking at the list for the current world champions, so Team England. So they are bringing a Lumineth Techless Castle. They've got the Jaws of Mork. They've got the Squigs out there. They've got now this is where it gets a bit spicy because they've also got the KO. So of the armies that we talked about, they've got the kind of the 3 big bads. They've got Tzeentch in there as well.
Of course.
And then this is where it all kind of gets a bit spicy. You've got the old Bunch of Zombies by Soulblight Gravelords. You've got Slaves to Darkness. We talked about that already. You got
Throne.
Yeah, you got Richie with the double Flame Keeper and the 15 Hearthguard, 30 Volkites. And then pretty wild, in my opinion, Max with the triple Tree Lord, Warsong Rev, Spirit of Durthu, Oakenbrow list, which is quite fun. Maybe that's just a list that doesn't lose badly ever. I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a really strong team composition, and that they've gone for like 3-4 kind of big bully lists, and then a bunch of mid-board lists that can go against your opponent's bullies and lose or tie, like close loss or tie. Like I think they're playing the long points game rather than 6 big wins. You know.
Yeah. So they're the team to beat. What do you think, Tom?
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure. I think them and France are 2 of the teams that are always up for contention. I always have Denmark as my underdog, and maybe on our own home ground, the Dutch can do. Our team can do very well as well. But I think the English are the team to beat, but don't underestimate the prep work that the French always put in, bringing their own chefs, their own physical therapists, etc.
Emotional support. Yeah.
Yeah, emotional support. And they have Christoph in the team this year, who is the best hugger in all of Warhammer. So, yeah.
And Kisser.
And Kisser, but that Jeffrey knows more about that part. So I think you cannot underestimate them. But the Danish they've been a champion before, 2 years ago, I believe. So they are also up for contention. And of course, Wales are a strong team. So
I mean, it's nice. Yeah, it's nice that you're letting all these teams feel like they have the edge in, but clearly Team Australia is going to win. So, like, it's nice that all these European nations feel confident, which you should have. But let's be honest.
Interesting. I guess we should round it up there. Jeffrey, who do you think maybe take out the event? This will be fun. Obviously, it's going to be you. All right, good. Everyone biased.
At least
there.
Australia has 2 chances because they are also playing for the Ashes again, I think.
Yes, they are. I mean,
Oh,
they didn't actually play for the Ashes last year, I don't think.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. They did.
No, that's not what they did. They lost
okay.
horrifically. Like,
we don't.
They are now
we
the
don't,
Ash.
we don't need to talk about that. We don't need to talk about last year. Last year's fine. We'd had a big bushfire. Okay, the last thing we wanted was more ash.
yeah, well,
Okay, we didn't care for them.
Yeah, I mean, Sweden got a good chance as well. I got to say that I was actually really impressed by Team America. Like, their lists actually seemed really well thought out. Jeremy's got one of the most unique Fyreslayer lists, which is very wild in my personal opinion, and I love to see it. I like the American lists. I think they're good. I like the Belgian lists. I thought they're really well thought out as well. Like, you can see the intent behind it. So that's really fun to see. So having a good time with that. Anyway, we're not going to keep everyone any longer, but there's loads more to break.
Should I open it up?
Yeah, open it up. Open it up.
Release the swarm.
Yeah. So the lists can go online, and if you'd like to go and read 192 lists, then feel free to argue about
So
them.
the team lists are online on Punpun already. Jeffrey can share the PDF in the Discord, and Jeremy, our commissioner, will share the lists on our website. Just so everyone knows. But go on with your story, Rob. Sorry.
So just go over your little stories, Rob. Yeah, no problem.
Sorry.
It's okay. There you go. They're all available. You can see it on the screen now, so you want to go check them out. The link is already in the chat if you would like it, but the guys will put it in there for you. I hope everyone has a good time. We'll try and do some more coverage. I hope this is more interesting, at least, than just reading 192 lists out loud. And not as boring as just posting the link so that everyone can just individually talk about it in their caves. Like, hopefully I'm trying to make it more of a community vibe over the next few weeks. Don't forget, on the 13th and 14th of May, I'm going to be live streaming for the whole weekend and interviewing loads of different people from the different teams. Hopefully have Tom back on. Hopefully have Jeffrey back on. Hopefully Dan can join us, although it is mainly during Dan's sleep time.
I don't sleep.
All right, perfect.
I don't. That's fine. We're good. Can
yeah.
you see the size of these bags?
But yeah, you well, hopefully we'll get a bunch of people on. We're gonna do some logo tier lists again, which will be fun. Maybe get some shirt tier lists in there as well. So
the shirt game is strong this year.
Shirt game is pretty interesting this year.
Yeah.
Is there a best dressed at Worlds? There is. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
I got it.
exciting.
Yeah. Hope for they will get a medal actually. Yeah.
A medal for best dressed.
You want to judge it?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
I'm just gonna be like catwalk for me now. Go.
Yeah, let's come on. We want some Met Gala shit in this world.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make him catwalk for me. To be fair though, like Jeffrey's in the team, so already that's winning because the face carries the outfit pretty well. Yeah, like he wears the clothes don't wear him. So anyway, all right. Well, thanks very much for Tom and Jeffrey. If you guys want to reach out to them, I will include in the show notes the way to reach them and talk to them. If you would like to ask them any questions, we'll do some more coverage as time goes on. I hope this was good. Like being responsible for the media for Worlds is actually a really big responsibility. I try and take it super seriously, but also it's actually quite like I don't really like ultimately 192 lists is fucking dull as shit to actually read through,
especially when so many of them are pretty much cookie cutter.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully that we're trying to make it a little bit more entertaining and fun, so that more people are interested in Worlds rather than just like. Does that make sense? Like trying to make it engaging. So if you got any thoughts about the way we can make it more engaging and more fun, then please do let us know. Love to do it. Tom, you got any shout outs you want to make? Anyone you want to say thanks to?
Well, it's been a hectic couple of weeks, but I want to give a shout out to the Alliance Open crew and the referee team because they've been a tremendous help this past week. And a shout out to the council, of course, for taking up a lot of responsibility. And a shout out to the people watching because they've been waiting a long time for these lists, having to listen to our shit talking. So I'm glad to see a lot of them have been holding on till the end. And I'm going to be very happy to meet you all again at Worlds.
Perfect. Jeffrey, anyone you want to shout out?
I actually would like to shout out, of course, my team, but also the people around the team. because they are not even playing and supportive. So like our coach, Mike, who's a big help behind the screens as well, helping me with the charter and all that kind of stuff. And
Mike's going to be helping Rob as well during the event.
oh, nice. So you'll meet
Hams
him.
fan.
Lovely guy. So
Yes.
shout out to Mike, and also people that came to train with us the whole year to help us improve. So yeah, shout out to them all.
Perfect. Dan, you got any shout-outs?
I'm just going to shout out everyone equivalent to how far they've had to travel. So the further you had to travel to make Worlds happen for your team, that's bloody spectacular, because the thing that's awesome is all of these nations coming together, different languages, different people. It's spectacular. Obviously, the further you had to travel, the better you are as a team. So good on your Team Australia and Team Canada, obviously superior. And I noticed that there's no Team New Zealand, which is... That sounds
There
about
are
right.
there are some New Zealand guys. There are some New Zealand guys in. Whoa, Jimmy's gonna. Okay. All
No,
right.
they're not. No, they're not.
Okay.
What's the team name? What's the team name?
Okay. It does say Australia, but it's the
There we go. That's it. It's Team Australia. No New Zealand.
Okay. But the best player in the team is from New Zealand. I'm just gonna
How dare
anyway.
you? How very dare you?
By the
sir.
way, is there a dress code at Worlds? Because with all the Slaanesh players walking around. I
Oh
mean,
my god. I don't know. I don't know. Is it going to be a warm as Top Hotel Praha? That's my question. It's not.
No,
Is
it's
there-
not. You've been there, you know.
Is the fudge
I've
still
had a
free?
little.
Is the fudge still free? That's all I need
It
to know.
will be, of course, of course.
I mean, I did have a little experience last year.
Okay. That's interesting. Right. So I want to just thank again Ziggy, Tom, and also Tom and Jeffrey for helping so much over the past few days, getting all that information together, getting it up. We will try and put some more stats and other information up online, so it's a little bit more digestible as time goes on. Hopefully that helps you. So yeah, thanks very much for listening. Hope everyone has a nice day and get ready for Worlds. It's going to be super fun. Hope everyone enjoys it. Okay, so recording finished. Twitch chat, obviously the best. What up? Thanks very much for listening. I'll be personally back tomorrow, just talking shit, probably just crying about, crying, just like why does it take so long? But see you all then. Right, we're gonna go. Okay, so do you guys want to say bye to the chat?
Bye to the chat.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.